Hey, if you want to hear the real pros and cons of living in Orlando and you want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, then this is the video for you. Let's go. What's up, everyone? This is Cameron Hodge with the Living in YouTube channel. If this is your first time coming to the channel, on this channel, we talk about living, eating, sleeping in Orlando, Florida. And also as well, we love and always have people reaching out to us about moving to Orlando, Florida. Days, nights, weekends, call, text, email, show up in person and tell us you're here. I don't care, but reach out when you're moving to Orlando, Florida. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the top pros and cons I found when moving to Orlando, Florida. So let's get right to it. So number one of the big things I think was a pro when it comes to moving to Orlando is the weather. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't like the humidity or the heat and, you know, they hate it most of the year. Look, I love it. Absolutely. So one big thing I found is, you know, coming from California was the last place I lived, of all places. It was, I don't know, you know, it's just so super dry. And most people kind of love that weather. But for me, I have terrible sinus issues because, I mean, it's just in my genes. What are you going to do? And coming to Florida, the humidity, weirdly enough, like I have a lot less sinus problems in the humidity. Not for everyone, but for me, it's just great. And, you know, it just helps a lot. Adding on to the weather, one thing, I think it's a pro for me, but so you come from like the West Coast, right? Where during the summer months, it's just not gonna rain. I mean, if it rains, it's rare. I mean, in California, good luck. Place is in a perpetual drought, to be honest. And coming to Florida, I found that it's just every afternoon from April, at a minimum April through November, like once it's 1 p.m., it's going to rain. A lot of people see that as a negative. Personally, like I love it. I love the fact that it rains. I love the fact that it's not dry and everything's dying. You know, I mean, yes, there's some negatives we'll get into here in a little bit, but overall, like I just love the weather. I mean, to me, it fits me. And if you're the type of person who loves, you know, half the day being rain and just, you know, it's hot and humid, but really it's just like a warm blanket, right? And you have AC, so it's not really that bad. So if you're one of those people that enjoy it, I think it's a great thing. All right, number two, a second pro I found when moving to Orlando really had to be just the cost, right? I mean, so Florida's not like the cheapest state at all. I mean, I've been in the military, lived in a bunch of places, other different countries, and sure, Florida's not the cheapest state to live in. Like, I mean, come on, do you really? I mean, if you're watching this channel, are you really gonna go to Montana? I don't think so. So, but the cost of living was great. I mean, coming from California, when we had made a decision to move out there, you know, thanks to COVID in 2020, it's just insane. The condo, when I sold our condo in California and San Diego, I mean, I sold it for what, like $360, and then I come to Florida and I was able to build new construction, not much more than that. And in reality, am I saving more per month? Not really. I don't, in my opinion, it's like you don't really save money moving to Florida, but like it's just for the same budget, you're living heck of a lot better. And I don't know about you, but if you have kids and, you know, a big thing is being able to enjoy more with your family and not just having your entire life live around work and surviving. Yeah, sure. Like it definitely opens up the budget to where it stays the same, but you can do so much more. And that leads me into my third reason I have surprised I actually loved. So I grew up in the country of Western New York before joining the military, and it's if you ever live in the country, like it's just city, country, they're different mindsets growing up. My wife, on the other hand, grew up in Southern California, right? So to her, amusement parks and just things to do in the city are just a huge part of how she lives and how she wants our kids to live. But I enjoy hunting, whether you like it or not. I enjoy fishing. I enjoy you know, really spending that time outdoors, camping, hiking. And one thing I found with Florida, and I didn't really think about it in the beginning because it's just, there's a lot of other things going on. Not really the first thing I thought of. Wife was happy. She's like, oh, there's Disney World. I'm like, fantastic. I'm happy too. Right. So when we made the move out there, all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, wow, like I can go to like an animal refugee, like little zoo for like 10, $15 a ticket. I can go to Disney World. There's Universal. I can go to Tampa and get sports games. But at the same time, I can go an hour, if not even, in north or south. And I you can hunting. There's fishing everywhere. I mean, come on, there's tons of lakes anywhere you go. And I realized, I'm like, wow. I mean, this is probably the first place I lived since meeting my wife where we both got to have something that we enjoyed. I mean, in most places, we were always having to sacrifice something, right? Like living in Southern California. Like, I mean, if you've ever lived out there, hunting, I mean, yeah, it exists, but you're either on crowded state land or you're like paying someone thousands of dollars for their private land that's been passed down since the 1850s. And they just have been lucky enough not to have to pay a crap ton of money, excuse my language, but it's true. And then you come to Florida and there's just, if you're willing to work and you have the budget for it, like you really have tons of options. I mean, you can have public land and have more space comparatively to a lot of other places, or you can, spend the money, which in reality is still cheaper than a lot of places I've been, to have private, camps to go hunting and stuff like that. It's absolutely insane. Like I could be hunting on a Wednesday and on Saturday I'm at Disney World with the family. Or even going to the beach, right? Which is, amazing thing to do. And I think it just created like this relationship with me and my wife to where it's like, wow, we don't have to, settle anymore. And I don't know about you, but if you're considering moving to Florida, like I can have a feeling that settling is one of those huge things that was probably sitting on your mind. And it's just, why would you do it? Personally, after making the decision, moving out here and then, getting established, having, the real estate team, doing all this, like why would I want to live anywhere else? I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. And that takes me to number 4. So I just mentioned the beaches and I'm gonna say it again, the beaches. So when I first brought my wife out here, I'll never forget, right? So we came out here and we did like a crazy cross country, just out of nowhere, just same month, right? Everything fell into place. Woke up one day, she's like, I want to make the move. Like, you got it. Let's go figure it out. Let's go drive out there and just have a trip. So we made the huge cross country trip with both kids. And if you've ever done a long distance trip that way, I feel your pain. We came out here and one of the few things that I wanted to do with her, I'm like, you have to see the beaches, right? Because if you're from California, yeah, beaches are great for surfing and all that. But I mean, I've seen a lot of beaches and the water's cold, they're crowded. Like, it's just not enjoyable, right? And so we took her to Clearwater Beach, one of the top beaches in the US, at least the continental US, and she's blown away. So we were lucky enough to go on a weekday, right? Wasn't crowded. It's only an hour and a half from Orlando. Not crazy, really. At least for me, it's not crazy of a drive. And be able to enjoy the beach with the kids, and the sand is just soft. The water's warm on the Gulf. And it's one of those experiences where it's like, this is insane. Like I can live an hour and a half, still have tons of amusement parks and all this stuff to do. And then we were able to go there and just blown away. It's one of those things where, we weren't huge beach people, and it's nice where we can live somewhere where we have the option to not have to do, have to pay the price of living near the beach, but we get to, with an hour and a half or less, if you want to be on the outskirts of Orlando and be able to go to the beach and have a day with the kids. And, crazy enough, actually, it reminds me of another story. When we went there and we were on the beach, and like it does in the summer of Florida, decided to rain and have thunderstorms at 1:30 in the afternoon. And we've been there like 30 minutes because we do not live there. And we just didn't know. And nowhere, just, what, let's just book a room. Why not? That hotel right there looks great. We went, it ended up being, I think, the Marriott, if I remember correctly. in Clearwater, and we went in, and it cost us like $120 for a night for a whole suite, 2 bedrooms. The kids had a whole room to themselves, and it overlooking the bay in the Clearwater. And there's a trolley that, was free to ride around the whole area. We got to eat at a restaurant, and all this is just an hour and a half from where we'd be living. And, being in a place before that where, like, good luck, we went to the beach, like, you probably spent an hour and a half just parking, let alone the drive time to get there with the traffic. And being in a place where we have that luxury when we choose to, and if we can set it up to do it on our time, is amazing. I mean, it really is. So it's one of those things that I think it's just an added bonus, and it's definitely one of my pros when it comes to living in Orlando. All right, number 5. So my 5th pro that I found since living in Orlando is really just the expansion, right? So living in San Diego for the past, like, I don't even know, it was like 6 years I lived there since getting stationed there originally. And it just, like, moving there, we were in an area that it was already developed. Like, they were just having a hard time just finding where to put people and expand and do things. In the time since I had lived in Florida previously and then coming back, it's insane to see the expansion that's going on. But in reality, it's amazing, right? Because instead of coming to an area that's already crowded and you're trying to find your place, really you can find your place in the path of progress. And there's so many options for you. Like, you can have an older home, you can have a mobile home that you want, you can have the luxury, like living in Celebration or the other communities in Golden Oaks around Disney World, if you have the budget and being able to live at the dream that you've always wished for. Or you got tons of new construction all around the city and heading east towards Tampa, not far outside the outskirts of Orlando, that are all within distance to where you could comfortably live and really choose how much space, your budget. The options are endless, and it's only because the area is expanding to where I think it's just an opportunity. It's an amazing time to be able to come to an area, to be able to witness it expanding, be a part of it. I mean, I remember when we first came out here, I just, you come from somewhere that's crowded, if you do, and you come here and you're amazed. It's like, wow. I mean, me and my wife, we couldn't believe when, we were looking for homes initially and going through the whole process of just, well, 1, not knowing the area, but at the time, but 2, being able to really choose what we wanted. I mean, we could max out our budget, which surprisingly was higher than we thought, being in a different area and the costs associated with it. And initially, like, we had a minimum requirement, like, this is what we need. And we're like, wow, like, that minimum was well under budget. And then we really got to have a conversation where, I mean, what do we want? Like, what do we actually want as a family? And having that ability at any budget, especially a higher budget, to be able to make that decision was amazing. And I can't tell you, if you're watching this and you're in this situation, I feel for you. It's one of those greatest things that I can feel. And it's what I've really come to love about Orlando. It's just the opportunity. It's ever increasing. And it's one of those pros that I find in the area, and I absolutely love it. So I've told you the pros. Now we're going to get into the cons and the top reasons that it's really hard to get used to living in Orlando. So number 1, the humidity, everyone's favorite friend. So if you've never lived in the South before and this is your first time, listen up. It's humid, right? Especially if you're coming from California, Oregon, Arizona, places on the West Coast that just really don't have that humidity. I promise you, you're gonna like, just imagine this, right? Like, you drive in Florida, or even if you're flying in to visit, right? You step out, you go outside for the first time, it will hit you like a shower, and you will think, it's like, wow, I feel like I haven't showered in days. Like, that's humidity, right? And it's one of those things where, especially during those summer months, like, you have to deal with it. It's the South, it's hot, it's humid, it rains, and it's just, while there's a lot to do, that humidity can be absolutely brutal, right? And you'll start to realize why everything has air conditioning, because the humidity is just so terrible and it's just so hot that it can become unbearable. it's one of those things where after a while you do start to get used to it, and it's kind of whatever. But if you have never experienced that kind of level of humidity before, it's something to take note of, and it might be a turnoff for you when it comes to living in Orlando. It just is. So I definitely recommend coming, visit, and experiencing it for yourself. All right, my second con that I found living in Orlando is sure the hurricanes, right? So I've been through them before in the Carolinas. I've been in the Pacific, going through their equivalent storms over there. And it's one of those things where, the reason it's only my second con and not the top thing I don't like about living in Orlando is because it's not the end of the world. It is overhyped, and I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, sure, like it can be dangerous, but it's not like tornadoes, right? Like you usually have enough time to make a decision for your family if you really needed to. But also talking to a lot of locals and around the area, and previous experience I have on the area a little bit from when I was here, it's like they've really only lost major power twice in probably like over 10 years. So it's not as bad as you think. And there's ways to mitigate it with like getting a whole house generator, a backup battery if you have solar. Like there's ways to mitigate the danger, but it is something, it's a way of life. And, I mean, I will honestly can say I haven't been in Florida to go through a hurricane. So I'm not a real Floridian yet. Floridian. Jeez, how do you say that word? See, I'm not real yet. So relax. If you're watching this and getting hate, tell me down in the comments if you really think, of what it's like, and tell everyone else that you're not really a Floridian if you don't go through your first hurricane. So that's what I've been told, and I get it. It's just a way of life, but it can be a con. I mean, April through November it's hurricane season, and it's only been increasing over the years. So it's one of those things that you have to be aware of. Central Florida is definitely more isolated than, let's say, you're living in Miami, but it's something you need to be aware of. When we built our house, and you realize it's like, holy crap, it didn't seem like it was in a bad area. Still considered a flood zone, had to have flood insurance. So it's one of those things where it's just Florida. It just is how it is. And if you're willing to accept that, then, it's gonna be something good for you, but just be aware of it when you come to movie here and you work with it. All right, number 3, my third con when it comes to living in Orlando is depending on where you work and what you do and what areas you have to travel to, the traffic can get congested. So, and people are gonna know what I'm talking about if you already live here. If you have to travel on the I-4 at all, you can understand at certain times it is just horrendous, right? Like it's any city. It's still a city. Even if you're coming from New York City, San Diego, Los Angeles, I don't care where you're coming from, Atlanta, like it's a city, and it's a con. If it's peak traffic hour, it's peak traffic hour, and you can't avoid it. So it's one of those things where it sucks. It really does. You can't avoid it. And I remember when we came here and I realized is for some reason there's just, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the area or what it is, but there's just blown out tires everywhere. And I don't remember ever living in an area that just had exploded tires as much along the highway as much as this area in Florida. I don't know if it's the heat, the humidity. If you know why it's like that and you want to make up for my lack of knowledge, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know, because I have not gotten a good answer. But for some reason, right, traffic's already bad enough. And obviously during the winter months, it's people flood into Florida, call them snowbirds. And the joke is that they're just terrible drivers. So it just adds to the chaos already. But for some reason, yeah, there's just blown out tires everywhere. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just people just not changing tires. I mean, I came from where I used to grow up with snow. So you just like changing tires was life. And coming here, like I guess people are just running on bald tires, but I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to have an answer because I haven't found it yet. All right, fourth con I have since living in Orlando is not knowing the area and just trying to jump in to purchase. Right. So like every city, every suburb, every state, I don't care where it is. Obviously, there's gonna be areas you do and do not want to buy in, and you want to reach out to someone like me and like my team that can help you pick the right area and have learned from experience. Here's a good example, right? I remember when, years ago now, when we were searching for homes, and this is before we knew we wanted to build, and we were just looking. I was already licensed, and the state since before moving, and we were looking for homes. And you look up, looks like a great home, great area, and you're like, all right, well, let's go for a drive. See one home, okay, neighborhood out in the suburbs a little bit, got some space around it. I'm like, this is great. All right, well, let's go one block that way and see the other home. Nice neighborhood, you go down the street, make a right, you start driving down it, and next thing you know, you're passing mobile homes that barely have the roof on it. And it's unfortunate that people live like that, but at the same time, you realize real quick that, especially in Polk County, outside Orlando's, its sister county, it's really easy to seem like communities are good. And then all of a sudden you make a turn around the corner or you go around it and you start to realize, like, holy cow, like, it's not as nice a neighborhood as I thought. And you really need to look outside the area where your home is to kind of give a feel of if you're comfortable living there or not. And don't just think you can just hop right in and start just thinking on price and, this is what I need, because it's more complicated than that. And you need to have an idea of what area you want to live in so you know what you're getting yourself into. All right. And my number one I have found when living in Orlando is the medical system, right? And it's not that it's like the worst in the nation and all these things. And look, that's not what I'm getting into right now. But so our oldest son has an eye condition where, it's a really strong lazy eye, and he's at risk of losing his eyesight, things don't work out right. And, this isn't, a sob story, but it's if you're in a situation where you have a member of your family that has a really big medical situation where they need, top specialists and making sure you have access, like Orlando it's okay, right? But a lot of the specialists that we needed for his condition ended up having to be in Tampa. Now, we made the decision to where, luckily, he got to a point before we moved to where we were okay being where we were living, because we love the Orlando area, and making that drive occasionally, working through his condition, because that was just a choice we made. And it's something you need to realize, is that if you have a specific condition, it pays to look into if the specialists are available in Orlando. It's not that there are bad hospitals. It's not like it's like any city. There's good ones, there's bad ones, there's specialists here, there. But depending on what your needs are, like for like a top children's hospital in Central Florida, it happened to be in St. Petersburg, Florida for us, for the specific thing that we needed, and it was covered under our insurance. And that to us was a major con and really almost deterred us moving here originally, because, like if you have kids, you understand that nothing else matters. Like I could be living in the place I hate the most in the world, but as long as my son's taken care of, like that's what matters. And if that's a major con to you and it's something you have to worry about, just do your research, understand your area. And this may or not be a con. Maybe it's not your biggest con. Maybe it's irrelevant entirely and you're just coming in with a good budget and willingness just to live wherever, you can make it work. But if you do have a family and it's one of those situations that's really important for you, then it could be a con, and make sure you do your research, even reach out to me and my team, day, nights, weekends, and happy to help you work through that and find a solution for you in your situation. So that's it. That was my pros and the cons I have found since living in Orlando, Florida. Again, always happy. People are always reaching out. Reach out to us day, nights, weekends, text, email, get a knock on my door. I don't care. Reach out. We're happy to help you. And I'll see you in the next video.